finally home, some Southwest shade, and America triples down on its favorite dog breed. But first, that 7-day forecast. Let's check in with meteorologist Jonathan Kegas.
Yeah, guys, and some ups and downs coming our way. Again, nice and comfy today, and you may have noticed the wind backing off. We were talking about that yesterday. It will continue to do so tomorrow. Fog icon back up in play tomorrow with the calming winds overnight tonight. We are going to watch the fog develop. We'll talk about that coming up in more detail and take it community by community. We will rebound nicely, though. Sunshine dominant after that fog burns off tomorrow. We're back to the low 80s, lower 80s on Thursday after a cool start again. Much cooler by the time we get into Friday morning. There's a system Thursday night into Friday. It will bring slight rain chances with us. Most of us will be dry, but it will bring us another round of some cooler air by the time you wake up on Friday morning. You see it there. Lots of sunshine on Friday. However, we're only getting back to the low 70s. Forget about it this weekend. Saturday and Sunday looking gorgeous. Around 80 on Saturday, mid 80s on Sunday. A little bit warmer on Monday, but so do the rain chances going back up again. We're going to pinpoint all of that in a little more detail and talk about your spring break forecast in a few minutes, guys.
All right, Jonathan, thank you. We can talk about the details, the delays, but the bottom line is Sunny Williams, Butch Wilmore, and the rest of Crew 9 are finally back on Earth.
Finally, and it was a sight to see for sure. It certainly was a bumpy ride on the way home, but it's breathtaking to watch this small capsule return 4 souls back from the heavens. And we just can't get enough of this perfect splashdown. It aired right here at the top of News 6 at 6.
It really was perfect. NASA says the capsule was traveling 17,000 miles per hour, and the astronauts were feeling anything from 2.5 to 3 G's of force. All worth it for Sunny, Butch, and the rest of Crew 9 to see their families again. And let's go back out to the Gulf now, right off the coast of Tallahassee. Oof. Oh, wow.
They're still in there, but they're getting ready to open that door, and those astronauts will smell that ocean for the first time. Smell anything for the first time in a long time, especially Butch and Sunny. And I know they are so happy to be back here on Earth. That is the recovery ship Megan, named after astronaut Megan McArthur. It is the primary recovery ship for the spacecraft Dragon. They've been on the Earth now, back on Earth, for more than 30 minutes, and they're still in that capsule. You know, when a plane lands, the first thing people do is just bounce right up and stand up. So these guys are probably just very antsy and itching to get out of that capsule, but they'll have to be carried off.
Well, you know, it's been a little more than a half hour, like you said, but you said it's also a little bit of a process to get that door open and get them out.
Yeah, it's not like you just a door at your house where you just close it and lock it. They're probably going to use some special tools to open that hatch again, because it was sealed so they could make that trip back here to Earth. And those guys are working fast and furious to make sure that everything is perfect and that nothing goes wrong at this point, because they've come too far for anything to go wrong right now. But it is nice to see that Dragon capsule on that recovery ship and everyone getting ready to get those 4 astronauts off that craft. And then at some point, they're going to get on another flight that's going to take them back to Houston.
So they still have some traveling to do.
They still do, but I don't think they're going to do it tonight. But hopefully they'll just be able to get some rest and get readjusted to gravity, which they haven't felt for quite some time. But it is just, and see them, they're just like hosing down the outside of that capsule, which has been through a lot. You can see that it is burned up coming through that atmosphere.
And hopefully we'll get a chance to see their faces soon.
Smiling faces is probably what you're going to see. So I hope we are able to get these live pictures back once they open that door. There it is. I just don't want to miss them opening the door, because that would just be tragic.
Obviously, they splash down in salt water, so we're trying to rinse off as much of that salt water as possible.
Yeah, we're hearing them talk about rinsing off the salt water.
And we can see the spacecraft continuing to move closer and closer to that recovery deck.
Freedom, the crew is working on side hatch opening now. Expect hatch open in about 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Okay, please let's stick with this. Less than 2 minutes now until that door opens.
You know, it's just phenomenal to see the entire process, and you see just how much thought and planning goes into it. It's phenomenal.
And Lewis, everything has to go perfect
Thanks,
for
Nick.
this to
Been an
happen
honor.
right now. There are so many things that could go wrong and
This is a
any
pretty
one thing
exciting
going wrong
moment
could
coming up.
end
We
in
are
disaster.
working to
And what
open
you
the
have here is a
side hatch.
perfect day for these
One thing that
astronauts to
may not
return
be
home.
obvious
And honestly, I was
from,
holding my
just
breath
looking
the
at the
entire
spacecraft
time that
here,
they started that deorbit
this
burn because,
side hatch
you know,
that we're about
you
to
just never
open,
know until they make
the
it back to
last
this
time it was
point.
open was
You don't know
when-
what's going to
was
happen.
when
There's so many
this spacecraft
unknowns.
was at
And the weather is so
launch
perfect
pad.
today.
This
That is
side
why
hatch
they
was
decided to
used
bring them
for
home today, because they
initial
didn't want to wait a few
capsule
more
egress.
days
Absolutely.
and possibly get into some worse weather and have them,
Yeah.
stuck there longer. So,
Yeah.
yeah, the weather definitely played a factor today.
And they moved it up. They were supposed to be on space station for about a week or so to show the other crew kind of the ropes. Well, that crew got a crash course because
they
in
had to
about
go.
a day they were taking off again because they didn't want to miss this picture perfect weather. And if you saw that splashdown, you know the kind of weather we had today. And there's no guarantee the water's like glass. There's no guarantee it's going to be like that tomorrow or the next day. I'm so glad we're getting to see this firsthand.
I just can't wait to see their faces and what they must be feeling right now after all of this time, and they are finally back home.
It's just so close to it happening. You know, it's like a kid who
remove
can't
the
wait for
footrest
Christmas to
of
come,
dragging.
and you want to go to sleep, but you don't want to go to sleep. It's like, okay, is it happening? Is it not happening? Is it done?
Get them out of the spacecraft.
It'll be
you're
interesting to see
absolutely right.
how they're
Safety
brought
is,
out as
once
well,
again,
because you
top
were saying,
priority
they won't be
here, and
walking
removing
out
those
of there.
footrests
Oh, definitely
from
not.
all
They'll be
four
carried out on
seats
stretchers,
will
and
be
the crew who
helpful as a
handling them has to be very careful,
as a space
especially
recovery team
with the
member
group,
will
the two
actually go
astronauts who have been
into
on
the
station
capsule,
for more than 9 months now,
exhuming
because this is the first
into
time they've been in
technical
microgravity.
freedom to
This is the first time that they're
help
feeling the full
crew
weight
members
of their bodies in
unbuckle
9
and
months. Louis, can
stand
you
up,
imagine
and
not feeling
essentially
that
we'll also
weight
see a fun
pressing
little
down on you
slide be put in
for all
place
that
to help
time? And that's going to
crew
come
members
with
exit
some
the spacecraft,
difficulties moving
safely.
forward. It's going to take them a
So, yeah,
while
we're
to
gonna
recover and
remove all of
acclimate
all four of
to
those
what they're
footrests to
feeling right
basically
now.
give a little bit
And I
more
can't wait to
working
hear
room
them
inside
talk
the
about that
spacecraft.
process when we see interviews with them, that process
right,
of
and we
using
get
their
here to
bodies
go
again.
for
Yeah, and you know,
opening, so just a couple
astronaut
minutes
Scott
before
Kelly,
we do
he
that,
spent almost a year in space, and he has a twin brother, Mark. So they did a test with them to see what happens and how they would be different from one another, because Mark stayed here, Scott Kelly was on station for almost a year. He came back because there's no gravity, no pressure. He was taller. They were the same height, but he came back taller.
Oh, wow.
I mean, you shrink again once the gravity gets you, but because there's nothing to compress your spine, he came back and he was, I think, almost an inch taller than his brother.
Oh, wow.
They're being very careful opening that door. Like I said, it's not just a regular, you can't just turn a knob.
Wow,
Oh,
look
there
at
it is.
that.
And there you have it. The side hatch is open for the first time since September.
We can see some of the protective equipment there that was brought into frame that will help protect the edge of the side hatch. One, from any potential damage. Oh, we can see the recovery crew member there taking photos of the side hatch seal. This is part of the standard operation for recovery. These photos will get saved into our procedure. We'll then install that protective frame around the side hatch. This helps to ensure that the side hatch itself, the edges of it, incur no damage while crew members are coming out from the spacecraft. If you missed it, there was also a recovery team member that went inside. So there are now 5 people on board the Dragon spacecraft.
And if you are just joining us, it has not yet even been an hour since Crew 9 splashed down off the coast of Tallahassee, Florida at 2:57 p.m. Pacific time. The crew is now on board the recovery vessel Megan, and the hatch is open. The next major milestone that we'll see is when the crew will actually egress or exit the spacecraft. But before that, they'll continue to, the recovery personnel rather, will continue to install that protective area around the hatch and then remove the footrests. So we're a couple minutes away from seeing the crew egress, but not too long away.
We'll probably see those footrests being handed out here in the near future, as I mentioned before. Oh, of course, we got to get a well-documented photo of the moment. Although we can't see it from here, I'm pretty sure there are 4 smiles on board right now.
And we did hear that report out from the commander, Nick Hague, following splashdown, that there were four smiles as far as he could see.
Yeah, capsule full of grins. Now, generally speaking,
And there we do see Crew 9, some happy waves, smiles all around back on Earth.
generally speaking, we have the individuals in the 2 center seats of the spacecraft exit first. You might hear us refer to this as the exit process as egress. It's just another term for exiting the spacecraft. Generally speaking, we most of the time have the 2 center seats egress first, as it makes moving around inside the capsule a little bit easier. We can see the tablets that were previously located on the upper leg of the crew members. We can see those being handed out to the recovery team. Those were taken off prior to the entry phase, to spacecraft reentry. Those had to be stored and secured prior to dynamic operations.
It looks like we are starting to see the footrests also be removed. I just saw one there on the screen. There are 4, of course, 1 for each crew member.
Those footrests are made out of carbon fiber and are actually sized appropriately for each crew member, as everybody has different measurements and different leg lengths. Same goes for the armrests and the bucket length of each seat. We size those appropriately for the crew members and to ensure their comfort and safety. I believe we just saw the little ramp that is used to help slide the crew members out from inside the spacecraft.
And once the crew does exit Dragon Freedom, they will be placed on to a stretcher to go to a medical bay for medical checkouts. This is standard procedure for all Dragon spacecraft flights that splashdown crewed, as well as for our Soyuz spacecraft that land in Kazakhstan.
We can see the exterior of Dragon Freedom quite clearly in this shot, and it's such a beautiful sight. I personally prefer the capsule when it has some of that charring from atmospheric reentry. It is the signature sign of a capsule that has returned to Earth.
Continuing to stand by for our first crew member to egress or exit Crew Dragon Freedom following their splashdown at 2:57 p.m. Pacific time. Dragon undocked from the International Space Station at 10:05 p.m. Pacific just yesterday, so it was about 17 hours of phasing. And while on board the International Space Station, Crew 9 contributed to 900 hours of science, over 150 research experiments and investigations, making great use of the microgravity lab of the International Space Station, which celebrates 25 years of continuous human presence this November.
Looks like we're about to get our first crew member here upon egress of the Dragon spacecraft.
So we are standing by for that egress. Outside of Dragon, you do see one of those stretchers. This is the expected procedure as the crew will be taken to medical facilities following their exit from Dragon.
We can see folks on board clapping as our first crew member.
And that is NASA astronaut Nick Hague, commander of Crew 9, now out of Crew Dragon Freedom. Some smiles, thumbs up, and a wave. Can't get any better than that.
Yeah, that is one happy camper, that's for sure. As we said before, it is standard procedure for all of our long-duration crew members to receive assistance upon egressing from the spacecraft. We basically help them move off of the recovery deck and into the private medical quarters for their initial consultation with the SpaceX flight surgeon. So we'll see that take place for all 4 of our crew members today.
And we are standing by for the next crew member to exit Freedom. Next up out of the capsule, we expect Roscosmos cosmonaut Alexander Gorbanov. His first space flight. Spent 171 days in space alongside NASA astronaut Nick Hague.
Looks like we're getting some cheers and clapping on board as Alexander is slid down the little ramp and placed into the mobility aid. Once again, big smile.
Now, the 2 crew members remaining in Dragon are NASA astronauts Sunny Williams and Butch Wilmore. They completed 286 days in space.
One of the remaining footrests being removed from the Dragon spacecraft. As I said before, we generally try to have the crew members that are located in the 2 center seats aboard Dragon, and we like to have them egress first if possible, as it creates a little bit more movable working room inside the spacecraft. There is a recovery crew member inside that is helping all of our Crew 9 crew egress or exit from the spacecraft.
We are standing by for the next crew member to egress or exit Crew Dragon Freedom following the splashdown not even an hour ago at 2:57 p.m. Pacific time. Really have the recovery operations down pretty quick at this point.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible to think that, just 5 years ago when we were doing the initial demonstration missions of the Dragon for Crew Dragon, that now we're under about 30 minutes for, to retrieve the spacecraft from the water, and just several minutes here while it's been on board, and to get everyone, really to get that side hatch open. For those of you that have just recently joined, the Dragon had an on-time splashdown. It looks like we're getting our next crew member here. That is none other than Sunny Williams. Big smile, big waves. She, like her other crew members, now will be assisted onto the mobility aid.
There we have it, some waves, some thumbs up, and some smiles.
Definitely seems to be a theme among all recovery operations.
Absolutely. And of course, that leaves NASA astronaut Butch Wilmore inside Dragon in seat 4. We're getting some views of him now as he egresses or exits the spacecraft.
Once again, some elation and cheers there from Butch Wilmore. As we mentioned before, returning to Earth coming from a microgravity environment can wreak havoc on the body. So it is customary and just standard procedure for all of our long-term space residents to get assistance once they are back on board the recovery vessel.
Well, so much for ladies first. They made poor Sunny and Butch wait till be the last 2 people off that capsule. And of course, for logistical reasons, it's protocol that the 2 center people get off first to make more room for Butch and Sunny. But she was still smiling.
She was. Big smile, waving. Ginger, think about it. We had less than an hour after they splashed down, we saw that side hatch door come off. And then we had several more minutes after that as they replaced the seal, and then they delicately started to bring out the astronauts, and all of them had big smiles. And
Oh, they were able
waving
to
the camera.
wave. But you know, you heard the commentators say that being in microgravity for as long as they have been there will wreak havoc on their bodies, and that's what they will be studying once they get back to their normal place in Houston. But I'm just so happy that this is the end result of what we're seeing. We've been waiting, anticipating, no one longer than those astronauts who are up there for more than 9 months, longer than they should have been. And it really is a lesson for all of us, Louis. Like when things happen that are out of your control, what are you gonna do? How do you, they get to decide what kind of attitude they have, right? And so we all get to decide if something happens, how are we going to handle it? We have no excuses now to have any kind of a poor attitude about almost anything that happens. Because if those people can come out of that smiling and waving, then the rest of us should just be A-okay. And we could not be more happy or more thankful that they made a safe return. And you see that Dragon caps with all those burn marks on it.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the vessel of life. It held them and kept them alive. It's just a beautiful thing to see.
It was interesting to hear the announcer talking about the charring that happens upon re-entry. And she said that is the signature sign of a capsule that has made it back to Earth.
And did its job.
Yeah,
did its
absolutely.
job. You know, the heat shield kept everybody safe inside, but it's just the anticipation, the building up, and it's just about an hour now since it really splashed down. And what a journey it has been. They launched last June. Went to space. And we talked about this, like, how do you prepare for a trip that was supposed to be a week long, that lasts for more than 9 months? I don't know if there's a way you can prepare for something like that.
I don't know how they did it. I have no idea how they did it. But it's been an hour, less than an hour since they splashed down. But that really isn't a lot of time if you think about it, to get them all the way in, to get that door off, and finally get them out. It is absolutely phenomenal, but you're right. It is a lesson to all of us. The Serenity Prayer comes to mind.
So I surrender all. Okay, serenity now. And we're just so happy that they're back. Their families are definitely excited to see them. But when they get to hug them for the first time, I can only imagine that's going to be one long hug for all of them.
So they've still got a little bit of a process before they get there, but they are back on Earth. So it has
where they belong.
It has been truly phenomenal to watch this process all the way through. And we know that so many things can go wrong along the way. But this was picture perfect.
And you heard them talk about all the scientific experiments they conducted and how many hours they worked, because at the end of the day, they were doing a job up there. Just like we're doing here. I mean, way more important, but still, they were doing a job conducting science experiments. And I remember reading one of the articles that said, for each of those experiments, they got to spend like 20 or 30 minutes a day, but they spent that time very carefully conducting it, because very often that's someone's life work that they trusted in their hands, that they sent up to the ISS, and trusting those astronauts to do the right thing with it. And that's the only chance they will get. So they took very good care of someone's life work, and you get so many different things that are developed. Think of all the things that we have. I talked about, there's a drug called Keytruda. It's a cancer drug. It was developed on the ISS. So it's incredible, all the things that they really study and that we benefit from here on Earth, because people think it's just for show that they go up there and say that they can do it. But we benefit here on Earth.
Supposed to be there 1 week, 9 months, but they weren't just hanging out up there. They got to work. And James Sparvero, we heard him talking about that a lot, that there were things that they were accomplishing while they were there, which is so amazing that they were able to do that.
It really is incredible. So I'm just so excited that one of the first things they got to smell is beautiful Florida and the ocean air, smelling the Gulf. And I know Butch Wilmore says he wants to smell grass. He'll get that chance too, but I can't think of any better place for them to splash down than this beautiful state and a beautiful day like today. So thankful for them and their safe journey home. And thankful for you for watching News 6 at 6:30. You can stream News 6 online anytime on our News 6 Plus Smart TV app.
And remember, we break news on clickorlando.com. See you tonight at 11.
They're
Take care.
home.
Brought to you by your local Toyota dealers. Toyota, let's go places.